Megas XLR was right. Chicks do dig giant robots. This episode of Full Metal Panic: Invisible Victory is a bloodbath. Well, really it's more of an oil bath because it's two giant robots beating the crap out of each other, and this was a super exciting episode, albeit a very simple one. Sousuke Sagara is going to get the deathmatch that he wants, and of course the bad guys are going to do everything to put things in their favor. Basically, they really do believe they're basically sending Sousuke Sagara off to die. The thing is, Sousuke's like amazing at everything he does. I firmly believe that he could have piloted a Rock'em Sock'em robot in this episode and still probably won his match against this mysterious soldier, who had a pretty interesting backstory that unfortunately they don't dive into all that much. Really, this episode right here is all about the big battle with Sousuke and an M9 arm slave, which is very similar to the arbalest that he actually used in the past. This thing is just decked out from head to toe with superior weaponry. The thing is, though, even with the massive savage arm slave that Sousuke is using, which is considered old and out of date, he still manages to utilize not only the battlefield and the terrain, but the actual design of his mech in the battle in a lot of really unique ways. He knows that he's not going to be able to outspeed this thing or even get against it with power. He actually manages to trick it and defeat it in this massive, elaborate sequence where he brings it into this like old, decrepit building where he manages to crush it with all of this rubble. Now, what's really interesting is that the M9 is very slimmed down. It can't take a lot of pressure being just crushed on top of it. But the Savage is kind of like a giant barrel-chested robot. It actually has the ability to withstand being crushed, can survive such pressure, and even has the ability to escape from the rubble. So basically, he did like this big suicidal attack to take this thing down. And it's pretty freaking awesome. But even with that, I think my favorite thing about this episode was the big reveal that Michael Lemon is some sort of secret agent of sorts. He's not a journalist, he's not a photographer, he's actually working with what I'm going to be guessing at this point is the French Foreign Legion, if only for the fact that a lot of them do speak French and they refer to him as Monsieur. That's right, every once in a while when I review anime I butcher the Japanese language. I just butchered French. You're welcome. But this episode has a really great B subplot where Nami and her entire crew end up getting kidnapped by the Amalgam guys and they're going to put them to death. And they're not just going to put them in a firing squad or anything. They're going to throw their asses into a wood chipper. Essentially, they're going to turn them into pig food, which is all sorts of fucked up, but honestly, I'd expect nothing less from these super evil villains. But at the beginning of the episode, we get to see that Lemons is actually bailed out of jail thanks to his good friend Bardet, who I'm guessing is one of these French soldiers. And later on in the episode, he appears suddenly acting like a badass emerging from the shadows, and all of these Amalgam soldiers just get taken out silently from out of nowhere from this mysterious SWAT force, which comes just basically out of nowhere. It's insane. Apparently Lemon does seem to have some sort of connection to Sousuke, and my first thought is, Lemon really just Weber in disguise? If he is, wow, give this guy an award for the best acting that I have ever seen. Despite the fact that the two characters do look alike though, I have a feeling they are two completely different characters. And while they are able to save Nami's crew, Nami is still under Kurama's supervision. And by the end of the episode, when Sousuke actually wins his battle, he has an opportunity to save her, and it all ends with a nice cliffhanger standoff with Kurama putting a gun directly to her head and Sousuke freaking out, and the only thing that he can think of is Kaname. So what's the rundown on this episode of Full Metal Panic: Invisible Victory? A very simple but very exciting episode. Basically just two robots fighting, but the best thing about it is that Sousuke, with his superior skill, manages to make it look really fun. This was a crazy episode too, with the two robots just flipping around all over the place, using cover. It's a really intense stuff, but I think some of my favorite things about this episode though is all of the stuff going on with these side characters. I've had a theory for a while that Nami is probably going to be a whispered, and they practically confirm it in this episode right here, with the fact that she explains that she knows how to use this technology because it just sort of came to her. She just knows. And of course, Sousuke realizes that she could very well be just like Tessa and Kaname and the other Whispered from the series. That, and like I said, I mean, she literally looks like both of them. I think there might be a connection behind some of the appearances of some of these characters, or maybe it's just the general art style of the show. But Nami is one hell of a pistol in this episode. She's a really fun character, and maybe one of my favorite female characters from the show. She practically confesses her love for Sousuke in this episode as well, and that's just going to amplify the tension with her being captured and being at gunpoint. Also, I thought things were really going to go south in this episode with her team. I didn't realize that freaking, of all people, Lemon was going to show up, but that's a nice little twist for his character. There was always something kind of weird with him, with something going on, and it was just a matter of time before they revealed that. I just didn't expect that it was going to be anything like this. I mean, it was so badass when he just casually walked into this place and then had his men just kill these guys by shooting through the windows and coming from out of nowhere. It was really satisfying and a really triumphant moment for his character. Loved all of that right there. And the actual battle that Sousuke has with this guy using the M9 Arnslave is just really solid. I especially love that it's not just a random amalgam soldier, it's actually a former Mithril soldier who was basically captured and forced to be one of their brand new soldiers. And because of this, Sousuke manages to give him a little bit of leeway and doesn't decide to crush his skull with his massive robot hands. Also, I think the standout action scene of the episode was not the actual robot battle, but a great scene where this attack helicopter is coming in, and Sousuke takes some wire and cable while still in the Armslave, runs up this dilapidated building, jumps in the air, wraps it around the helicopter, and brings it down to Earth before it just explodes in a massive explosion of all awesomeness. This was a really satisfying episode. I just wish a little bit more could have happened. The pacing was a little slow in this one. That being said, this was a really solid experience with lots of great production value that this season is really making its own. This is such a distinctive and great season of Full Metal Panic that once it wraps up, I really hope that we're going to get more from this production, as so far, I've been enjoying every second of this series. It's doing the other previous series justice, and it's also doing something unique in its own right, and man, I can't wait to see what's going on with Kaname. It's been so long since we've seen her, the longest I think we've gone without seeing her in the entire series, and the fact that months have passed, man, I'm just ready for all of this. I can't wait to see where all of this is going to lead, and I really can't wait for Kurama's comeuppance. I'm guessing that he looks just like him. Lemon and his team are probably going to come in and help out Sousuke, but still, there's a lot of mystery and intrigue and fun that this series is continuing to deliver to the fan base, and it's definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of this franchise. And this episode right here was no exception, even though I thought it was a little slow. So that's why I'm going to give this episode a 4 out of 5. Check it out, guys. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this episode of Invisible Victory in the comments section below. Let's get a discussion going. If you guys want to talk with me, I would love to do that. I'm always down for a great conversation with you guys so that we can talk about this episode. So thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, stay down now, baby.